Thank you so much. What an incredible honor it is to be here to share this stage with so many people, with Erica. If her talk didn't give you chills, I suggest you ask the person next to you to check your pulse. Just incredible. I had an opportunity yesterday to practice my speech in one of our 11th grade English classes, and the kids are just amazing. And so I felt it went really well. And afterwards, I asked them. I said, "Well, do you have any advice?" And one of the boys says, "Well, if you get nervous, just picture everybody in their underwear." And that made me wonder two things. The first is, why did he think that would help me with being nervous? And the second was, does he know my mom is in the audience? But it's been an amazing week for me getting ready for this speech, but at home another amazing thing happened. My oldest daughter turned 3 this week. And yeah, when we're talking oldest with turning 3, that's a relative term. But 3 years ago, she came into this world knowing how to do virtually nothing. And in 3 short years, less time, by the way, than it takes to complete high school, she's learned to walk and talk. She can sing and dance. She knows her ABC. She knows the ABC song. She can count to 10. Actually, she counts to 20, but 1 through 10 are in the correct order. She knows all the Disney princesses, including a few that I didn't even know existed. Snow White's her favorite, or Tiana, depending when you ask. She knows when to say please, when to say thank you. She knows how to find her favorite Rihanna song on my iPhone. But never once did my wife and I sit her down, write an objective up on the board, and say, this is what you're going to learn today. So why do we do that to our students? Why do we take the passion out of learning? My daughter took her very first step, and we cheered. Why do we applaud for our students after a football game, but not after a math class? Why do we give standing ovations after kids give a musical performance, but not after they turn in an essay? Is it because our focus is in the wrong place? It was Victor Hugo who said that nothing is more important than an idea whose time has come. The idea of compulsory education was a powerful one, and it remains a powerful idea. But it's the execution of the idea that needs a little bit of tweaking. No longer are teachers the only ones with the information. As we've heard today, not with the internet and YouTube and Wikipedia, literally right in the palms of our hands. Not with Web 2.0 allowing us to connect with anyone, nearly anywhere. A principal whom I admire says, I don't want teachers who say I teach math. I want teachers who say I teach students math. But I think we need to take it a step further. I think we can say, let's get out of the way of our students and allow them to have powerful ideas. Let's make ideas the focus. Let's allow our students to be innovative every single day. Earlier today, Jade said that innovation is the bringing of creative ideas to the market. In education, we spend a lot of time talking about teacher collaboration. What if instead of those teachers focusing on grading policies and common assessments, what if instead they were brainstorming about ways for their kids to be innovative? What if instead of writing lesson plans about math or English or science, they were saying, how can I use math today to have my kids be innovative? In what ways could my students use science to be innovative? What if we challenged our students every single day to be designers? To design is to plan or conceive in the mind. Our students plan, they choreograph dance productions, they produce newscasts, they plan ways to serve the needy, help their community, improve their schools. They do this all the time. But in the classroom, everything is designed for them. From the curriculum, to the assessments, to the books they read. Dustin earlier talked about these teenagers designing amazing things. Recently in England, a 17-year-old designed an app that Yahoo bought for reportedly $30 million. No, sorry. He wasn't 17 when he designed it, he was 15. He sold it when he was 17. Which leads us to entrepreneurs. What if students got to be entrepreneurs every single day? This doesn't have to be in the business sense, starting businesses, striving to make millions of dollars. It could. But what if they had the chance to cultivate their entrepreneurial spirit? The spirit of organizing, managing, taking on risk and initiative. What if a student's grade involved their willingness to take on risk, their willingness to fail, to collaborate with others to find out what went well, what went wrong, what do we need to improve? What would that look like? And what would they strive for? And finally, let's let our kids be artists every single day. You don't have to be a musician or a sculptor or a painter to be an artist. An artist expresses their creative skill and imagination. Ask any boxing fan whether or not Muhammad Ali was an artist. I'll bet they tell you yes. Ask any basketball fan whether or not Michael Jordan was an artist. I'll bet they tell you yes. What if we allowed our students to be artists every single day? To be creative and imaginative inside the classroom? Ideas, innovation, design, entrepreneurship, art. What if that was the focus of our schools, of our educational system? What would that look like? Would we still tell students to be quiet? Sit still. Put your phone away. Do your own work. Learn this. Memorize this. This is important. How many of your parents school-age kids? Raise your hand. How many of you had school-age kids? I'll bet at some point you asked them, what did you learn at school today? What if that conversation changed? What if instead you asked them, were you innovative today? Did you design anything today? Tell me what you created today. How were you an artist today? Did you have any cool ideas today? Another question that I got from one of those kids in the classroom, and this was really amazing. She said, so what are you going to do next? Finished my speech, and she said, what now? What are you going to do next? I didn't know. But on Monday, I'm going to go back and I'm going to tell her that I did this. I'm going to tell her that I took her question and I asked you. What are you going to do next? Thank you.
Monday Morning Matters.
Perspectives
from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
Hi, this is Grace.
And of course, you are with us on our Monday Morning Matters. Today we are going to talk about not politics, not economy, but we are going to talk about technology and the business of technology, which requires a lot of innovations. Right, Gowri and Grace?
Yes, I agree with you.
That's right. And I think we have the right person for that in the studio as well.
Correct.
And of course, we have Mike Smith, not his real name. His real name is Vikesh. He's the founder of 1337 Ventures, or in short, it's called Leeds Ventures.
That's right, Lead Ventures.
So hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good to have you back.
It's been good.
So last year we had you just explaining about your company. Perhaps you can just share again what does Lead Ventures do?
Alright, so basically we are a VC, a venture capital. So what we do is we invest into high-tech startups in the country itself. We're looking to expand that towards ASEAN, not just focus on Malaysia. But for the last 24 months we've been investing in Malaysian companies. Apart from just investing money into a company, we also have a program where we have grooming for people we invest in. So they spend about 3 to 6 months with us to undergo regular weekly mentorship with the mentors that we have on staff to make sure they go from idea to product in the shortest time possible.
Wow. That's your job. So you make things happen.
We make them make things happen.
We make them make things happen.
We don't do it for them. We become sort of like maybe an extended biz dev, because we found that a lot of Asians, if you generalize, especially in Malaysia, very technical oriented. When it comes to entrepreneurship, which is the business side, the business acumen, that's the part that's always lacking. So we come in and groom them based on that, connect them to the right partners to take the product to market, basically.
But when it comes to technology or the business of technology, one of the key area that governments, private companies, even individuals keep saying again and again is innovation. But innovation is such a subjective word. What exactly constitute an innovative product or person?
Well, yeah, I guess if you ask anyone what innovation means, you're going to get a lot of different answers. But I think there's a clear distinction between invention and innovation.
Right.
Innovation will be in the means of taking what's existing and improving on it, making things better, faster, stronger, if you would, even cheaper. So that's what true innovation is. You're still trying to solve problems, but the main thing is improving on what's existing. So if you look at Tesla, it's still a car. It's not like we didn't have electric cars, but they innovated the electric car model to become at least 10 times better, 100 times better. So there's always a magnitude towards it. So when people come to us with same ideas and people say that, oh, this is a Me Too idea, it's fine to have ideas that's already in the market itself. At least that's proven. You're not coming to a market that doesn't exist, which would be harder. Take a market that's already existing, but how do you improve on it? And when you say improve on it, make it at least 10 times better, 10 times stronger, 10 times whatever itself. But try not to focus on 10 times cheaper. Cheap doesn't always mean better.
That sounds like Malaysia.
Yeah, we like tall things, long things, short.
Long things. Yeah, we do.
We're still talking about innovation.
Innovation.
So why is innovation actually important in business?
Well, the most innovative companies grow. Growth leads you to revenues. Revenues is bottom line itself. So if you don't have innovation, you can't grow. With no growth, no GDP, no success, right? So that's the whole idea itself. The country that has the most innovation spurring from it would definitely be the one that flourishes the most.
So innovation also comes when you move forward, when you are being proactive. But then how about, do you always need to sort of compare yourself to the others to make it better? How do you measure the innovation?
So that's the thing, right? So if you set yourself a benchmark to say, when I create something in the first place, I always make it better than what's existing in the market. So you're always trying to be the market leader, always be at the forefront. People always talk about the whole concept of disrupting. The idea is you don't have to be the first person to come in and do something and disrupt. The first one doesn't have the advantage. Some say the second one may have the advantage because you can see what the first one did wrong and copy. The idea actually is to be the last guy. So if you're the first, make sure you're also the last. If you're the second or the third, you must be the last guy that disrupts, that puts yourself so far ahead of everyone that you do not compete. Competition is for losers.
Oh, really? That's something new to me.
If you there's a whole book written about this by a famous guy who used to be with PayPal and he became into an angel investor. It's called Peter Thiel. He wrote this book called 0 to 1, where ideas like Microsoft and Apple and Facebook, these are 0 to 1 companies, things that wasn't really there before, and now there's a whole vertical progress. But most of the typical what we call Me Too companies are what we call 1 to N. You're moving sideways. Sideways innovation rather than upwards innovation is the clear distinction of market leader and follower itself. So if you compete in a market where you're always trying to throw your price and compete with someone else, you'll never go anywhere. And at the end of the day, everybody should just close shop, right? So if you're clearly ahead of competition and you start to go towards a monopoly and you control the market, you control the pricing, you know how much you can produce for that price. Like Apple, they don't have to worry about saying, I need to create this many phones because it's this cheap. They get to control pricing and supply. They're always at the forefront itself. So that is why you have to aim to be a monopoly. But monopolies don't happen overnight. The idea is, can you slowly monopolize? Start with a small domestic market.
But what you meant by monopoly is not like you control the whole market because you have political connection.
No.
But because you
that's
are
very
truly
short term itself, right?
But you're truly innovative in
You're
the
truly
field.
innovative itself. You go into a market and you slowly expand. Then you have this whole regional expansion. I guess that's what's going to be supposedly easier now with the AEC coming up, deadline end of this year. That's going to help open more doors. It's going to help you have the ease of doing business in other countries, setting up in other places itself. But even without the AEC, market leaders will be market leaders. You see these guys with or without any connections, they will make it happen. Take, for example, the most famous company that's doing stuff like this, Rocket Internet. A bunch of German guys come into Asia, set up a little chop shop, build Zalora, Lazada, and now you have this running in every Southeast Asian countries just like that. Did they need to have certain influences? Did they need AEC to make it happen? No, you just needed a lot of cash.
I mean, for example, Uber is popular globally, including Malaysia and Southeast Asia, and they don't even have like a physical presence.
Correct. So that's why the whole idea with innovation is solve a real problem. Every country has their own problems, solve that. So if you're in Malaysia and you're trying to build the next Facebook, what was the problem you're trying to solve there? So everyone sees, like, those days, every kid wanted to go into computer science. Every parent wanted kids to go in computer science because IT was the in thing. Now the in thing seems to be entrepreneurship. It could be on any particular vertical of entrepreneurship. So people want to be an entrepreneur because that seems like the cool in thing right now. But you get into the wrong reasons, you're going to basically burn yourself. Solve things that you have a domain expertise in. So if Malaysia is known for manufacturing, agriculture, build something around that. Of course, they always use the word, these are unsexy products. So it's not glamorous to build something in that line, but you're sure going to make a lot of money if you could figure that out.
I think entrepreneurship is getting more popularity nowadays among younger generation, mainly also because younger generation, they become their own boss. So they get to control with their own ideas. However, I think that's also wrong concept their younger generations do have. I mean, a person can come up with another Facebook, and it could be a different concept. It doesn't need to be on social media. It could be another platform. However, how do you sustain with your ideas? How do you build your team and then go for long term? I think that's another
always
question.
Just look at the external input also. Like, if you're in Vietnam, you're in Indonesia, you're in Korea, possibly you could make something else which is a copy of what's available in the US and create a local version. Because one, you have enough people in that country to sustain it, and you have your own culture and locale in terms of how you speak and the fonts you use that makes it work. But if you try to do that in Malaysia, we can consume English products here itself. The way you type Bahasa is using the same Roman characters of what English is on. So to build back Facebook here as a local version, it's kind of pointless.
That's true. So, and I want to touch on GDP because you mentioned that naturally an innovative country that encourages innovation, it will somehow have a higher GDP. But what we are looking at Southeast Asia right now in terms of economic revenue, Southeast Asia definitely is on the highest strata. Is in combined GDP is at number 4th in the world. But that doesn't mean that innovation, in terms of innovation, we are at the highest level.
Yeah, because that's still very traditional businesses. We're talking about that is, I think, made out of what we call the old money itself. These guys conquer the most of the markets itself. It's about time these guys just die and let the kids continue. And then you're going to see how they brought us to this level, and it's about changing drivers right now and letting the kids take it to the next level itself. So yeah, we're number 4 right now, but you say, but if you move on to the next level of stuff that we could do, maybe we could be number 1. So we just have to change seats and drive.
And we'll take one short break. When we return, we are going to talk about why we are still not there yet when it comes to innovation for us.
Monday Morning Matters
Perspectives
from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
Hi, this is Grace.
Hi,
And
this is Mike.
Thank you. Mike, thanks for introducing yourself. Okay, so continuing our conversation just now, I can't help but to say that ASEAN is way lagging behind when it comes to innovation. Why?
Well, I like to say that maybe they're not lagging that far behind. Maybe it's just we don't know how to market ourselves, so it doesn't look like we are ahead of certain things. But yes, there are factors that says that we don't have that much innovation. Because if you talk about ASEAN, just the 10 countries, and you don't include the other Asian-like countries of Korea, Taiwan, Japan, China, then there's a whole clear distinction of the disparity between that itself. One is, of course, we're always growing up to become consumers of technology rather than creators. It's how we've been trained since young to become part of a workforce and just work for someone rather than be the guy that creates opportunity. And that's where governments are coming in, Ryle, to change the whole idea of being an entrepreneur, become a high-income nation based on that factor. But we're doing it towards the tail end, which is a bit too late. I'll say that if you want to change things like this, you got to go back ahead. Even if you look at universities, Singapore being the outlier, of course, capabilities of the universities, standards of the universities, I dare say, is kind of low itself. That's why you still have a lot of programs come from governments to have stopgap measures to figure out what do we need to retrain them with, upskill them with before they go into the workforce itself. So that's why overall it looks like it's lagging a little bit there.
So there's no way.
But there are quite famous, also well-known entrepreneurs in the Southeast Asia.
Yeah, so you can count how many of them are, and some of the top companies in Asia actually is Malaysian itself. You look at AirAsia, you look at JobStreet, but if you say how truly innovative they are, kind of innovative, but do they have the speed of execution like what we talk about, people like Facebook and Google, where things happen in such a short duration? This one takes longer to achieve that critical mass and even sell a company and list a company. But nonetheless, it was kind of innovative itself. So I guess that's the whole stressing of the speed of execution, getting things done, the sense of urgency. It's never been that cultured within us itself. So it's all about, can we take this back in school days? Can we be more of a show and tell nation rather than a shut up and listen nation itself, right? You're stunting creativity from start. Like little backstory itself, back in school, when I was in doing school, you have to write essays and karangans, right? I could never keep between the 120, 180 word limit. I would write 800 to 900, sometimes 1,000 word essays itself.
Within 1 hour?
Within even lesser than that. You just keep going. And then what the teacher does is she'll just tear off the rest of the papers or she'll just scrap it. It's like, why you keep doing this? Rather than just saying, I will mark it till 180 and give you that grade, and the rest, great creativity, promote that itself. But then you shut me down and then I stop writing that much itself. So if you're really cultured within that means, how do you expect people to go beyond and be innovative, right?
So you mentioned a bit on education, especially with your experience. I think when it comes to education, Southeast Asia is very much traditional in the way we try to promote the direction of education.
Yeah, I mean, it's authoritarian, kind of, but that's the thing. It's very hard to compare. Like, if you look at Singapore, run a little bit more strict. Vietnam is strict. Malaysia kind of strict. But you still see different outputs. All of them don't have freedom of speech, but yet you see different levels of innovation come in. So there's still something in their water that they're drinking that's making this possible in their countries. We've seen startups in Vietnam, just 2-3 man operations, all developers build a little app that in a span of like 4 to 6 months has 2 million downloads, 1 million coming from the US itself. But if you try and find a company similar to that here in Malaysia, you don't really see that. It's like, how does a Vietnam company have something that can scale that fast compared to a Malaysian company? So when people try and compare apples to this another apples in another country, there's a clear distinction itself. So that's still something of lacking in our thought and process itself.
But could it be also because of the lack of competition? Because we said we could count the number of entrepreneurs that we have here, and they don't really have people giving them a hard time or pressuring them.
That is definitely true. That could also be a variable that can change by end of the year with AEC opening up, and people are going to have their whole stronger sense of competition. Other markets can come into your market, then maybe that will change itself.
Maybe we are too comfortable with ourselves.
So that's why most people always say Malaysians have their comfort zone, that what is the level of unemployment in this country? It's to the point that it's considered negligible itself. You could get an average job out there and still survive and do okay compared to other countries where if you don't have a job, you're living on the streets kind of thing, right? So that could be a clear distinction why the sense of urgency is not there. People are going to be taken care of by their parents. The young generation Y have their comfort zone. That's what people say.
Oh, you did mention acceleration. How about that plus enrichment? I mean, you start something, but you don't just touch on the surface, but you really need to know what you are selling, right? When it comes to entrepreneurship. So not only the accelerating your whole process of being innovative, but then also enrichment, as in like you go in depth of the product what you are selling.
Correct. So that's why when people come to us with great ideas, sometimes the idea could be great, but you may not be the guy to pull it off because you don't have that depth. You're not a domain expert. Like I could say, I want to build a time machine. That's like the best invention you can ever create. But can I pull it off? Am I a quantum physicist? No, I'm not. So I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Correct.
So a lot of people, just tech guys, come and say, I want to build an app to revolutionize medical stuff. So we ask them, are you a doctor? No. Is your dad a doctor? Your mom, your uncle, anyone in your team a doctor? They go, no, but I want to build this anyway. So of course there's only a certain level you could go without the right connections and know-how itself. So the depth is what's lacking itself.
Is that the reason why we can never develop innovative companies, not just in Malaysia but throughout Southeast Asia?
Loaded question. I guess that's one part of it. I'll still blame education. That now you see a lot of agencies and fundings coming out. It's always towards the tail end, but it's too late. You can't just say, here's money I'm going to throw at you. Now figure out the next best thing next to sliced bread and call this X country innovation itself. So all these short-term band-aid solutions, it's not going to last long itself. You have to go back as far as possible. Change the beliefs and behaviors of people, students from secondary or even primary school if possible. I mean, look at kids these days. They didn't grow up like, I would say, like us itself, where you grew up very much brick and mortar, very analog rather than digital. The kids today grow up with iPads. So their whole level of accepting technology and understanding what they could do with technology is like maybe 10 times, 20 times greater than us itself. So if you don't nurture the kids from young on what they could do with technology, then it's basically just going to sort of like stagnate later on, because they will just take it as a norm and never do anything with it, never understand how they could grasp these technologies and build something greater with it itself. A lot of parents, I know, they're scared. They go like, I'm never going to give my son or daughter an iPad because look at them, they're on the iPad all day long. Well, it's the same as we grew up kind of analog but with TV, but we stayed and watched TV and we turned out all right. The kids' TV these days is the iPad. So you can't say that you take that away from them. It's still about discipline and control and not having too much TV, not having too much iPad. But don't just say that if I give my 2-year-old, 1-year-old an iPad, they're going to be brain dead. I think you are brain dead to think that way itself.
But then if you compare those days and in these days, I think one major difference between these two eras is that nowadays so many things are available, maybe even on the social media, information, it's just flooded. But then back to those days, we are very thirsty look for and to get the information. We go to library, we go to bookshop to get certain information. But here, kids can just press or Google or become a keyboard warrior and they just find information at the easy spot.
Going on that fact, that's why still we blame education. People are ready to have instant gratification. They expect things at their fingertips. They want to collaborate. But if you look at the schools, how things are taught, it's completely opposite. You still go through the standard syllabus step by step. Even the kids are ahead of schedule, they can find resources 10 times ahead of what class is doing. You're still going down the slow pace. You're telling them to work alone in isolations rather than work with friends because they're used to having Facebook and talking to each other. So whatever that they're learning with technology online, you're completely stunting them with the complete opposite offline, because you are a digital immigrant. I'll call you guys that. And the kids are digital natives. You're not in their country, which is the digital country that they were born in. You don't understand them. So when you see your kids trying to read a book or study and watch TV and the iPad and music at the same time, you say like, how can you study that way? It's like, yes, they can study that way because that's what they grew up with, those elements. You didn't grow up with that. That's why you do not know how to multitask, consume few different sources of media at the same time and still read a book. But the kids grew up with that. They can do it. You cannot. So you are just stunting things just because you don't understand it. That's the problem. And teachers don't understand it still, because look at the teachers that are teaching the kids these days. They're the same teachers who are teaching me, right? They've not even changed the teachers in some of these subjects. So what do you expect to have innovation grow and get from where?
But it is, I will say, the approach is very wrong when it comes to international schools in Malaysia. I'm talking about the Malaysian context. Malaysian and local Malaysian school, huge difference. Nowadays, the international school, they do follow all those technology updates. Kids use iPad to follow the classes, to find the timetables, to communicate with teachers. However, public schools in Malaysia still stay in the standard they already set a long time ago.
Correct. So it's all, of course, they'll say it's resources. Like, I think you're getting the guys from Frog to come in here next, right? Ask them those kind of questions. How's it going with the Chromebook project and putting this kind of digital medium in schools? I think you can still count the number of schools that even have computers. And when you go and look at the computers they have in schools, how do you expect them to innovate on stuff that was like built in 1994 itself, right? So that is a clear distinction itself.
So we talk a lot about education, but after this break, we'll talk more about the business environment in Southeast Asia. How can we improve it to be more innovative?
Monday Morning Matters
Perspectives
from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
Hi, this is Grace.
And of
This
course,
is Mike.
Okay, Mike. So, Mike, when it comes to the business environment in Southeast Asia, we talk about the GDP, where majority of the GDP portion are controlled by the old money, those who are in the top 10 in Forbes list and all that. But when it comes to the current business environment, do you think because of the old money, we cannot have innovation, we cannot have entrepreneurs that want to push forward to get more innovative economy rather than the current commodity-based economy?
I mean, to get any company to another level, you need money, right? You can't do it without capital itself. These older guys who set up the business back then, they also started with nothing, and then they worked real hard to grow the business where it is today. So when it comes to smaller companies going to these guys and say, hey, I've got something that's in line with what you're trying to do, invest in me, even just to get 100,000, even 10,000 from these guys is really difficult. Then they'll tell you about their old stories and you know, back in my day I had to work so hard, why aren't you doing stuff like that? So if you look at in terms of, are these older companies innovative? No, they were just there earlier on. They had the means to create a factory, but how innovative these factories are, it's never changed till today.
And the worst thing, because they've been there forever, they have stronger political connection.
Correct.
They actually control, they monopolize the whole, some of them monopolize the whole
based
sector.
Based on connections, political and all, they have that particular share itself. But what we see, the shift happening right now is these guys know that they can't be there forever. Thank God they have kids, and the kids, because they're from well-off families, go off to really good universities and they see the new business models and they understand. Most of them go off to the Europe side, or especially the US side, study in places like Stanford, and then they understand the value of this new economy and this new internet age and app worlds of products itself. And then when they come back, they basically want to take the companies that their dads built, their families built, to the next level. And we start seeing that already in Singapore, in Malaysia, in Philippines, and even in Indonesia. The kids now want to run the family fortune as venture arms, like what we do itself. Of course, they've got a blank check to basically take local companies to the next level. But because they have so much money, and they don't want to, of course, take the risk, because they got to get still some of their dad's permissions, family's permissions to do such thing, they will go with the safer bets. And that means investing in American companies mostly, and European companies itself. I know some of the families who's invested in Facebook before IPO, Alibaba. Now some of them are doing Snapchat. And these are like not small checks they're writing, right? And these people can write that. The parents allow that because they've seen what Facebook
but
is.
But why the transition? I mean, they are comfortable with the way they are, right?
They are, but you know, these guys have so much money. They diversify into everything, and there's still so much access capital, so why not? So then the kids convince them, give me a little bit, let me try something with that itself. And when they go into this bigger stuff like Alibaba and you have an exit and it goes IPO, the returns are just ridiculous, and they get a little bit more like, hey, why don't you try to do something more interesting? So now what has happening is the kids are reaching out to people like us to come up and say that, okay, we've done this in the US, it works real well, done in Europe, works real well. We want to understand a little bit of Asia. We've been out of touch. We've not been on the ground here. Tell us how things work here itself. I know there are some law firms in Singapore that specialize in this. There's guys that run the family fortunes in terms of consulting and advisory roles. They're teaching the kids, and they ship them off to the US and go through special VC programs to teach them how to be a VC. And then when they come back, they seek out people like us to say, show me some interesting deals. I can't name names, but we've got some of those kind of kids that is coming into our portfolios to invest in some of our things already. So we can see the trickle effect working. Even there's word about people like NASA trying to create a venture arm for NASA. They personally invest in things in the US. You see CMY also having a CMY venture arm already. In Singapore, you have Far East Ventures, which is construction, now have Far East Ventures, right? So all the families are starting to see how they can diversify, but also come from a very strategic investment perspective. It's not just blindly give startups money, but how could we leverage on the family's connections to take this guy next further? So that becomes now smart money. You don't just get money from a rich tycoon and their family itself, but you have access to their connections, and that I think is worth even more than the money they can give you.
So this is extremely different from investment by government, because right now the cool thing to do is governments all over Southeast Asia are investing in entrepreneurship.
Yep. I mean, Malaysia and Singapore has been spearheading this whole thing of put money at the very early stage. I guess that is also a good thing in a way, because these guys, they kind of was taking calculated risks, right? So nobody wants to go in so much at the early stage, put money into a company where you say 90% of startups will die in the first couple of months itself, or first year itself. So why would you invest in something so risky? You would want to go to the later stages where you know it's going to do well. The more money you put in at the later stages, the higher chance you're basically going to get some kind of returns itself. So guess what? Government still plays a role to say, you take the most risk and do the thing at the beginning, and then let private sector come at the later stage itself.
And what about AEC? Do you see that with old money, the new generation of old money coming in to be the angel investors? Is AEC going to be a boost for them?
Loaded question. Also, it can work on both sides. It all depends on how you're running things right now. If you're basically someone who says, I'm only trying to figure out a domestic market, I'm not bothered about things around me, it can still affect you, because someone is competing with you in the other countries might just say that, I'm going to come to Malaysia and get your market share now. So that's why the whole sense of urgency is really important. If you cannot scale and get your market in your own hometown as fast as possible, you're going to die when these things basically open up. If you're not interested to become a regional company and just want something really that small, you're going to have a hard time competing. So startups and companies who are already looking to expand, especially e-commerce, you want to get into other countries, you want to do cross-border transactions, you want to get product shipped from A to Z itself, then this is going to really help you. When they basically make it easier for you to open up another entity in this neighboring countries, when they're going to make logistics going from one country to another country, the tariffs of basically moving electronics and textiles or whatever that's usually taxed quite high, lower, more bottom lines for everyone itself, these startups will capitalize that and take it to the next level itself. So it's going to be quite interesting to see. I hope it happens 31st December as it's supposed to.
Yes, we hope the best as well. To be concluded.
So AEC would definitely somehow reduce the cost of supply chain in this case, and also better access to talents and human resources. When it comes to entrepreneurs, do you think they really need this? Because usually when it comes to entrepreneurial companies or innovative companies, usually the number of people are really, really small, 3 to 5
you
people.
start small, but then after that, once you get something going, you got to scale fast, and you want to basically get into more regions as possible. So then you need to have connections on those countries to basically scale and hire people, right? So talent is always the biggest issue that most startups have. Of course, the more channels of funding that governments put out there, access to talent is always more harder. Like these days, most startups that come to us is very much the business-centric guys that have the great ideas, the domain experts, and their dilemma is trying to get the technical person to come on board. Every technical person thinks they can launch their own startup because they are sought after real well. They can go and pitch to any agency, get at least 50,000 ringgit easily itself to get something going. So everyone wants to try and be a startup. If everyone wants to run a company, then nobody's going to be the staff again. So you always have that chicken and egg problem itself. So people are now sourcing talent from other regions itself. Even us, we try and find people like-minded with us in this country. It's not always easy, and we really resorted to basically bringing people from other countries to come and work for us.
Is there a huge red tape in Malaysia or even in Southeast Asia when it comes to you looking for human resources and also other forms of
It's not so much
resources?
red tape, but more on the dollar signs attached to it. Now, if you want to basically bring someone in, of course, if you're an MSC company, a tech company, a little bit more easier. Now, government has basically put MSC status for startups. But when you want to hire foreigners in, then they still look into things like your paid-up capital and your this and that. So not everyone can afford to do that. If you want to open up even another branch in another country, it's not straightforward. Some places might say it's easy to do business in Singapore and set up a business in Singapore, but nobody said it was cheap to basically do that. So with AEC coming in, and those things are supposed to go down, then it's going to get really interesting. Everyone can have regional-based presence easily itself, rather than saying $100,000 paid up capital to open up a company in Indonesia. It could be 1/10 of the cost. We have no idea what the rates are going to be like yet. It's not announced, but things would basically considerably go down.
How about the information? Do you think people will get the information easier than before when the AC is achieved?
I don't think so that's going to change so much. Information dissemination will still basically be the same itself, but right now they know they can do it easier, faster. And that's basically going to give them the boost to say that now I need to do my expansion plans faster because it's easy for me to go there. It's easy for them to also come here. So it may then, like you said, increase the competition level, and everyone's going to be on their toes. So it's good when everyone's on their toes. More people are pushing it. Helps again. The growth will help ASEAN, will help the economy, will help the GDP. And this is the next level that the countries in ASEAN will go to.
But speaking of all 10 countries, right, do you think that for an entrepreneur it will make sense to innovate existing products to cater to all the different countries, or would it make more sense to actually come up with something for everyone?
Well, a lot of people from, like say, call them the West, in the US side, they are already now trying to figure out how to bring their existing products here to fulfill the market here. Because we look at the total revenues that's available here, even the population here, it's greater than Europe, greater than US. There's 600 over million people here in Asia itself. So I would say people should concentrate on this market here first before you want to figure out something for the whole world. We're a little bit different in this part of the world. So if you could figure out something for Malaysia, it is very similar, not same, but similar to launch the same idea, same concept in the neighboring countries like Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia. It's very similar itself. Maybe you might want to change the language a little bit, but in terms of how things work, how things are consumed, we have the same kind of developing country problems itself that you could basically solve. So solve the real problems and you shouldn't have an issue.
So it's all about solving, the problem here now. I think another thing that I want to ask about, I guess the obvious one about Southeast Asia. Do you think the younger generation in Southeast Asia, are they ready for innovation? Because we are half ready when it comes to GST and all other things that are new, but with globalization and the world, keep on moving forward really fast and changing really fast. Do you think the younger generation, at least in Southeast Asia or in Malaysia, are they ready to face the changes and the innovation that they need to apply for themselves in order for them to move forward?
Yeah, I think, again, if you say that someone was plugged in the system from primary to college and just graduated and they didn't open a book and didn't try and consume things out there on their own, then hell no, they won't be ready itself. They would be falling into a trap there. But I think kids these days are smarter because of the sheer access to information. The amount of information out there is it's at your fingertips. If they wanted to and they started looking for stuff like that, then they'll be asking the right questions and they understand that it's the whole sense of execution. And that's why I guess when you look at some of the new fresh graduates coming out, a lot of them don't want to work for someone. They want to do their own. They have the sense of, I think I can figure this out. So let them try. I think what we want to see eventually is the next generation, Generation Z, the kids who are growing up with the iPads as the first point of medium rather than paper. It's a digital tool. These kids, when they come out to the workforce, that is going to really transform ASEAN to another level itself. The current ones will be, okay, you might still find some innovative coming out, but the next generation after that will really flip things around itself.
Because we are still in that transition stage.
Yeah, still in the transition stage, still need a little working on. Nothing's going to happen so much in the next couple of years. Give it 5 years till you see really, really interesting things.
Yeah, even when it comes to business, businesses and also the job market here is really uncertain. And just recently, stories about CIMB just axed 3,000 workers off their company, and of course the infamous Mars airline just lay off a bunch of their workers. So people are having this fear mentality that the future will be a bleak one because of unemployment, because the job market is getting smaller and smaller, because all the businesses are going in other places.
True. I mean, it's not just that. In long run, let's say 20, 50 years from now, if you still think you're going to be sitting behind a desk and speaking on radio here itself, think twice. Everything's going to be automated. Things like this is going to be done. Everyone becomes a DJ with their own apps, and everyone has their own radio station. In fact, you see apps already doing that. Everyone can curate their own station. So same thing as this kind of jobs. If you think planes are going to be flown by pilots, stewardess are basically going to go down aisles, everything will change. Don't be comfortable itself. So you got to start thinking what's going to happen in the future. That's where innovation comes in and disrupts everything, but it still opens up windows for other things to basically happen itself. So you might lose a job here, but it opens up some new interesting ideas like Uber. They think that, oh man, now taxi drivers don't have a job. They can't basically
Now
slit
my
our
taxi
throats
is
anymore.
protesting.
Yeah, but then how many new other drivers came onto the ground because of Uber itself? I know people who drive part-time, even in Singapore, even bank managers just drive lunchtime itself to basically make some money. So it closes one door here, but it's going to open up more interesting doors elsewhere itself.
But yeah, speaking of that, right, I think even like 10 or 20 years ago, we didn't think that there'll be jobs like social media consultant or probably a lot of other jobs.
Everyone can sit at home with the beauty of Facebook and sell products which they never thought they would basically do itself, right? So all these things, all this innovative stuff basically opens up more opportunities for you to still have that comfort of life and basically do something else on the side.
I always think that if you are in the comfort zone, that's when you have to think that it is very dangerous level, because you are not going to go anywhere when you just stay there forever. And I guess that has happened to a lot of older generations. They are scared of just quitting the job because they have families to take care of. So many other elements that they need to take care of. That's why just they stay and then in the same company for years and years and years. But like you mentioned, because of people are being innovative, more jobs are actually provided. It's up to your choice whether you want to make a move or not. And throughout this conversation, I can't stop smiling because I can imagine the whole this movie film going on, all this with the scientific technology or the gadgets.
All the humans being replaced by machines.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they always say, like the whole Matrix thing. You're going to be plugged in and you're in this virtual world and everything just runs that way. You see now already virtual reality happening, right? Facebook bought over the Oculus company. Microsoft has this new thing called HoloLens. Everyone's getting into that world. Maybe that will happen. Is it a bad thing?
So Mike, is there a way to prepare yourself for a job that you don't know will exist in like 10 years to come?
Well, the whole idea is what you love to do. Try and figure out how you could start doing something on the side by interacting with your skill sets. Tap on your skill sets itself. If your skill sets is basically making biscuits for dogs, then basically create a Facebook page, start selling biscuits for dogs, and then never know what happens after that itself. The whole idea is just start right now.
So with that, thank you very much, Vikesh.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.